Donna Drive. That's kind of cool.
Good evening and welcome to our regular scheduled select board meeting of Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. I ask everyone please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We begin our evening tonight with promotions within our fire department. I invite Chief Barry. Do you have a mic there? Do you want to come
You
up
can
to the
borrow
podium?
Jim's.
Here you go, Chief.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board very much for the opportunity to bring two individuals before you this evening. One for promotion to my recommendation for promotion to Assistant Fire Chief, and another one for a recommendation to promotion to Deputy Fire Chief. First, I'd like to announce Captain Brian Chirella. Captain Chirella has over 30 years of experience with the Walpole Fire Department. He currently serves as the shift commander, serving as a captain with Group 3. Throughout his tenure with the Walpole Fire Department, he served multiple roles, and he's been a very, very proactive member of our department. We're extremely fortunate to have him. Extremely pleased to introduce Captain Brian Chirella to the board for their consideration to promotion to Assistant Fire Chief, if you don't mind.
Brian, would you like to come over and just give a little bit of information to the board?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Having worked for the Walpole Fire Department for almost 3 decades, I've continually worked academically and professionally to achieve the position I'm being recommended for this evening. Obtaining my paramedic license and returning to college to receive my master's degree and continually acquiring certifications and classes from the Fire Academy, I trust that I have the qualifications to take on this leadership role, and I feel that I have the support of the great men and women of this department. I work extremely hard and have been recognized through my promotions from firefighter to lieutenant, and for the last 5 years as fire captain. I'd like to take this time to thank each of you here tonight for taking the time out of your personal lives. Chief Barry, Jim Johnson, select board members, thank you for your confidence in me to serve as the Assistant Fire Chief for the town of Walpole. I'm truly humbled to be here tonight. I want to thank my parents. Without you, I wouldn't be here. You've always been there for me no matter what. My mother and father-in-law, thank you for everything you've done. My brother Steve, thank you as well. To my wife, Kerry, you're my best friend. You're my sounding board, my advisor. I want to thank you for all you've done to support me in my career, in my future career. Your work ethic inspires me every day, and I love you. I just apologize in advance for the portable radio that's going to be in the bedroom. Today is a day of immense pride and gratitude as I stand before you tonight. Words cannot express the honor and humility I feel in accepting this position and the tremendous responsibility that comes with it. I firmly believe that by empowering our personnel and promoting a culture of respect, we will continue to achieve greatness. I feel that the Walpole Fire Department is one of the best departments around, and together we can make it even better. We aren't just firefighters anymore. We are civil servants called upon a moment's notice to answer any call for assistance. We have a natural affinity to help others without expecting anything in return. There's a lot of work to be done. We must stay ahead of the ever-changing curve and embrace new technologies and strategies to ensure that we continue providing the highest level of service to the citizens of this great town. In closing, I'd like to say I'm so grateful to the members of the Walpole Fire Department and all the town officials for putting their faith in me tonight. I hope that this position will allow me to have a positive influence on this community and our department at the highest level. Thank everyone for their time.
Thank you. I want to open it up to the board as well. Jim?
So congratulations, Brian.
Thank you, Jim.
I remember when you joined the force way back in the late 90s, and your career has steadily progressed, and you're a wonderful example of promotion within and everything you have done for the. Actually, I don't have my mic. Thank you. And everything you've done for the force and for the town over the years is certainly very commendable, and we thank you for that. I think you're going to be an outstanding assistant chief, and I think it's important for us as we're progressing the fire department to be, bringing the new structure in place that Chief Barry has recommended, and so I'm real happy to have you being in that position, so congratulations.
Thank you, I'm looking forward to it. Thank
I'll
you,
echo the sentiments. Congratulations.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, I would just say, Brian, congratulations. I think you'll do a great job as the assistant chief. And I've always enjoyed talking with you about the fire department, so congratulations again.
Thank you, Mark.
So I would make a motion to promote Captain Brian Chirella to the position of Assistant Fire Chief.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you.
For a second promotion this evening, I'd like to present to the board Lieutenant Alan Hover. Alan has over 12 years' experience as a firefighter, currently serving as a lieutenant on Group 2. He's previously served as our second fire prevention officer and has done a fantastic job in that role for us. He is extremely proactive, very proficient in his skill and his knowledge in fire prevention. I look forward to getting him back into that role. And I'm pleased to introduce Lieutenant Hover to the board for their consideration of promotion to Deputy Fire Chief.
Good evening.
Adam?
I apologize to my wife. This is the first she's hearing. There's going to be a radio next to the bed, so I do apologize for that. So a little bit about myself, I guess. I've been a firefighter for just over a decade now. I started in East Bridgewater many years ago, and I came out this way about 7. I attended the National Fire Academy Command and Control class, and that's a 6 series. I've attended the first one out in Maryland. I graduated with my bachelor's and my master's in public administration from Anna Maria College. Obtained my fire prevention officer credentialing, and I look forward to going back to school to be able to obtain more certifications through the NFPA. I'm filled with gratitude and a deep sense of privilege tonight. The opportunity to serve as Deputy Fire Chief for the town of Walpole is an immense honor. My sincere thanks to Chief Barry, the Select Board, the town administration, and everyone who has helped me along the way to make this journey possible. Foremost, I want to express my appreciation to my wife, Kara. Her unwavering support, understanding, and sacrifice have been the cornerstone of my career. Without her love and encouragement, I wouldn't be where I am today. To my family, especially my parents, you've been my pillars of strength, always there to provide advice, sharing the joys and sorrows over the past decade, and give me the confidence to pursue this profession many years ago at a young age. To the dedicated men and women of the Walpole Fire Department, your relentless hard work and commitment to the safety and well-being of the citizens of Walpole is truly commendable. It's a privilege to stand alongside you, and I'm humbled to be allowed to help lead such a remarkable team. Thank you again for this incredible opportunity. I look forward to continuing to work together to make Walpole an even safer and stronger community for all of its residents.
Thank you, Alan. Again, I'll open up to the board if there's any other members that would like to speak. Go for it, Joe.
Happy to. Alan, congratulations again. I enjoyed our conversations as we went through the interview process, and I got to know you pretty well during that. You've got a very impressive background, particularly in the area of fire prevention, and so we're very fortunate to have you coming on board and stepping into this important leadership role. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Yeah, congrats, Alan. I enjoyed our conversations and looking forward to what you bring to the department.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Alan, I'll just say, I think you'll do a great job as the Deputy Fire Chief. I enjoyed our chance to talk a couple of weeks ago. I haven't spent a lot of time with you, in the past. But based on your background and the things that we talked about, I think you'll do a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Alan, I would say too, I greatly enjoy getting to know you more. I think your experience in the fire prevention will, once again, really shine in this role, and we're very fortunate to have you here.
Thank you.
I would make a motion to promote Lieutenant Alan Hover to the position of Deputy Fire Chief.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 5-0-0. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That's it, right, Chief?
We're good.
So you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but it's okay if you want to leave too, so. Congratulations again.
Congratulations, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next item on the agenda this evening is a discussion and possible votes on the MBTA Steering Committee. I do believe
I know Patrick's making his way down. I
Okay.
think I'm held up in the hallway, but I can give the brief introduction.
it is quite busy in the hallway right
Yeah.
now.
So this is the MBTA steering committee. This is something we've talked about a few times over the last few weeks. Patrick and I were looking for some guidance and direction from the select board in regards to this committee. We wanted to put a group together that could listen to the recommendations, not only by the consultant that we had, have a few open forums, take some public input, and really have a say in the process, make a recommendation to the board, hopefully in time for May, but if it's not completed by May, we don't have to rush it. I don't want to rush it. But that's kind of the timeline we're going around, is getting it in time for the Springtown meeting. So with that, I know there are one or two members of this committee that we're recommending putting forward that couldn't make it tonight, but I know that I can see Kevin Smith out there and AJ over there. So with that, your call, how you want to handle this, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, I think we can start with the members that are here. If AJ or Kevin, if you'd like to start up and just kind of, yep, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to join the committee.
Yeah, hi, AJ LaRusso from SM LaRusso and Sons. Been in Walpole my whole life, been in business in Walpole for 30 plus years. Want to be on this committee because I'm concerned about how the development for the next 10 to 20 years with this town is going to be. I'd like to have as a landowner, I'd like to have input into what is happening and what's going on and be part of that process.
All right. Does any members of the board have any questions that they would like to ask?
And AJ, you're clearly very qualified. I appreciate you putting your name forward. You have an understanding that there's some clear requirements around this specific zoning
Yes.
charge?
Yep.
We're not just like being charged with zoning in any way we want. There's actually some rules that the state is sort of dictating to us.
Yes, correct.
So within that realm, you're looking to kind of make that change, right?
Yes, and I think I think it's a 50-acre requirement
yep.
and a certain amount of condensed housing zoning, and there's different ways to go about that. A lot of different ways to go about it, and what's best for the town for the next 5, 10, 15 years, because could have a very long impact.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Not
didn't mean that as-
not to make any rush decision, and just,
Yeah.
it's a long process.
And that wasn't intended as a test. I mean, we're gonna learn the rules and we're gonna sort of go forward within those rules and make some good changes, I think. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Chip?
So thanks for being willing to volunteer. This comment is really to all of the folks who are going to be speaking to us tonight, but we do have some sense of urgency around this, given that we've got some deadlines that are coming up and then some town meeting votes that'll happen in the future. So what we'll need is to have you get organized and get going and come back with your recommendations. I think this is an important group that we're putting together, and so I'm glad, given your background, I'm glad that we've got, a property owner involved here, and hopefully what we'll be able to do is figure out what's the best configuration for this overlay that's gonna happen in the downtown, and make sure that we set the town up for, real success under this MBTA Communities Act. So thanks again for volunteering.
No, thank you.
Any other members?
And what's interesting too, I mean, we're not actually limited to the downtown area.
No.
I think primarily it's gonna be, and Patrick could talk more about this than I can, it's primarily gonna be within the downtown, but I think we have up to 25%. Pat, is that right? Yeah, 25% can be outside of the downtown area too. So we have a little bit of flexibility there, so.
And it is important, and sometimes it is, as we, create these committees, it is difficult to find volunteers. And I think having a diverse committee is something that will help us as everyone works with Pat on this.
Yes.
So,
Great.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Kevin Smith is here this evening as well?
How are you guys?
Hi, Kevin.
My name's Kevin Smith, owner LDS Construction here in the town. I've been a resident of Walpole my entire life. I have young children in the school systems, born and raised, and I'm looking to get on this committee to see what happens with downtown. We have a great opportunity with what's going on around the downtown and inside Walpole. And with children coming up, I think just being able to see and put my input, and also on the construction side, is beneficial to the citizens of Walpole.
Any members? Jim?
Yeah, and so I won't repeat my comments to AJ, but they pertain to all of you, as I said earlier. I like the fact that you've got the building background, and I think that's important to have that perspective brought to bear on this, because of course you'll think of things that others may not. So thanks again for volunteering, and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo his sentiments. I appreciate you putting your name forward. So I don't know too much about LDS. Can you give me like a quick summary? What do you build? What's
Yeah, so we're a small construction firm, about 5 employees. We do residential and small commercial. I'm looking to stay in that realm, not looking to grow, but it's.
What's your coverage area? Do you Walpole? Are you outside of Walpole?
We're in Walpole. Right now, we're from Milton to Lincoln.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, that's great.
in that demographic. Yep.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you. All right, any other questions to the board? No? Okay. Kevin, thanks for coming forward and coming this evening to speak to us, and thank you for volunteering for this committee. I think it has an important charge this committee will have in the next few months.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Have a great night.
I don't believe Tyler's here, and I know graders can't come.
Right, I didn't think so. Pat, do you want to give a quick briefing as we kind of continue this discussion on the size of the committee? Initially, we were thinking 5. We've had a number of members at large come forward, and possibly increasing that to a 7-member committee. Can you just do a brief synopsis of what this, kind of the charge of this committee would be?
So the charge of the committee would be working with myself and hopefully through our consultant, Barrett Planning Group, on both the outreach and kind of being that sounding board for the composition of both the regulations and the final district or districts, the boundary of those. So there's a lot of information that we can kind of we're able to kind of come to a conclusion from just because of the proximity of where our main transit station is. But then there's a lot of components that require a steering committee's guidance to have more of a local say and feedback on that. So beyond that steering committee itself, there is a portion that I'd like to plan to do for community outreach, both discussions with stakeholders as well as just general information sessions with the public as a way for both myself and that committee to kind of gauge some of the feedback received by town residents.
And we mentioned the May timeline and for town meeting. And are there any other timelines that really should be taken into consideration as this committee kind of moves forward and forms?
In terms of meeting compliance or?
Meeting compliance and when we kind of need that established plan.
So I know the warrant opens, I believe, in December.
Next meeting, it's gonna be.
Oh, okay. So the timeline is pretty close for the spring. I think the goal is to try to approach it as, as hard as we can to try to make that warrant schedule. Fortunately, we do have the option if something cannot get really put together in time, there is still the fall of '24. Ideally, it'd be great to have something kind of ready to go by early '24, or at least framework of a zoning bylaw by that point. Through the process of working with our consultants so far, we've been able to kind of piece together a real skeleton version of what a bylaw would look like. There's just elements that kind of do need that personal touch in terms of feedback from a committee, feedback from the public. By and large, though, that bylaw would be set up is fairly consistent to a few other towns that are also going through the same process that luckily our consultant is also working with. Not to say we're copying exactly from other towns, but the framework of it is not too unrealistic to think of for the spring. It just really depends on how quickly we can, plan an outreach session, have a few meetings, work with the consultant on framework and putting it together and being able to present it and have something that we feel comfortable with. So that can be done possibly for the spring. We like to pursue it for the spring, but fortunately we have that backup date as well.
Okay. And we did receive 4 highly qualified individuals, residents at large, and I think we have up to, actually, I should say 5 individuals at large that are willing to be a part of this this committee.
So I think if I could speak to that, I know we talked about at the last meeting going back and forth between the 4 and the 5 and the 7. I think 7's a good makeup. The individuals, the ones that I know personally, they do have a great mix of private background and everything, and a few of them have some experience on the town side and different boards and committees, so I'm completely comfortable with it. I know Patrick and I talked about the 7 committee person makeup, and that works for us.
Okay. All right. Any comments from the rest of the board concerning the makeup, Jim?
This is really important. So I think it is, in my mind, I know we started out with 5, but given the quality of the people who have applied, I feel very comfortable increasing that by 2 and going up to 7. I think we'll get a better product out of it. I like the fact that we've got, landowners, we've got a builder, we've got an attorney, we've got someone who has a capital investment background as well. All these things are going to play, I think, to our favor as we figure this out. And the only thing that I would ask you to, I know you'll be, working to help this group move the thing along. I mentioned the urgency earlier, that's important, but I also want to make sure we're not doing something that's just trying to force fit something. I think we should give ourselves the latitude to think about what's the real right configuration of this overlay, and not be bounded by any preconceived notions of, CBD and that kind of thing, but really ask ourselves, what's the real right way to do this, and how do we turn, what is a mandate from the state into an opportunity for the town?
No, that's an excellent point. I think that where it comes down to, can it be done before May? Sure, certainly, but to look at it from a kind of a larger perspective of, hey, this is an opportunity, not just something we need to do.
Right.
We have the flexibility, we have the time. We do have, obviously, the end of 2024, so December 31st, 2024, that's our compliant deadline. you know, it's closer than we think, even though it.
Well, and that also includes getting through town meeting, right?
Correct,
So, yeah.
in the way it's kind of written in terms of how you can receive compliance, not so much, we don't even really need to hear from the AG. We just need to show documentation that we've submitted to the Attorney General, whether it's passed. So at the moment, say if it is fall of 2024, if it needs to be, at the moment if an article like that is passed, you go through the process, or I would go through the process of filling out the DHCD's compliance submittal. And as long as I have information, we have plenty of time to get that done.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other comments, questions? So we are looking at changing the committee to to 7 and having 5 members at large.
Yep.
Sounds good, yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I have a couple of motions that we'll make here. I'll make a motion to update the committee makeup from 2 residents at large to 5 residents at large.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500.
I would make a motion to appoint as residents at large Tyler Church, AJ LaRusso, Ed Forsberg, Kevin Greener, and Kevin Smith, as well as Philip Zakarowski as the member of the planning board.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And lastly, I would make a motion to appoint Glenn Maffey as the select board member to the committee.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. All right. Pat, thanks for all your work on this. So we now have a committee member set, so hopefully we can get going on it.
An email from me tomorrow.
Yeah, right away, man. Let us know what you need.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, and
Thanks
thank you
for coming,
again.
guys. Appreciate it.
AJ and Kevin for
Yep,
coming this
have a
evening.
good night, guys.
Next item on the agenda, do we have Leah here? Yeah, if you'd like to come up, Leah, Leah for the Historical Commission.
Hi.
Hi, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to join the Historical Commission?
Yeah, sorry, losing my voice today. My name's Leah Wordy. I've lived in Walpole my whole life. I recently graduated from Roger Williams University with a degree in architecture with a minor in historic preservation and sustainability. So definitely my sort of thing, definitely, sorry. So over the past 4 years at school, every time I came home, it sort of felt like every time I'd come home, I'd see another building torn down and a new large building put in its place, and it seems to be a trend going on in Walpole right now, and it's something that I definitely feel pretty strongly about, preserving the history of buildings and in Walpole, especially with all of the development going on around, which is great, but I think that there's definitely a lot to be said about historic buildings and older buildings and keeping those not only for the sake of their history, but also for the sake of sustainability and other things. And so I think that if I were to join this committee, to become a member of the committee, I'd like to be able to make a difference in terms of preserving the history of this town that I've grown up in my whole life.
All right, well, thank you. We always appreciate members coming forward to volunteer, members of the community. So anyone on the board have anything else to add?
Thank you, Leah, for volunteering. It's great
Thank
to
you.
have you. Yeah.
All
I
right,
would make a motion to appoint Leah Wordy to the Historical Commission.
I'll second that.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. Leah, thank you, and thank you for coming forward to volunteer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Have a good night.
All right, next item on the agenda, Jim, who do you want to introduce we have here for this evening?
I think we have to, since it's a public hearing.
Do we
have
open the
to-
public hearing first?
So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the installation of temporary above-ground propane tanks for construction heat at 625 Washington Street.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. The public hearing is now open.
So if I could give some background on this, I know we have our project team here, and they can speak to the specifics of this project. This matter is coming before the board After much discussion with myself and the fire chief, it's something that we haven't really had to consider most recently, but it's necessary to heat, obviously, the new middle school building that's being constructed right next to the current middle school. We explored some options as far as heating the building during the winter. Obviously, a lot of the drywall needs to cure and be able to dry out. It's been explained to me that it's absolutely necessary to go with this. Anything beyond 2,000 gallons requires a hearing by the select board, despite the fact that it's a temporary, not more than 2 years, actually probably only 1 year solution here, because the building will be built at this time next year. But it's necessary, so that's why we're having this public hearing. Paul, do you have any, or Chief, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Sure. And Kate and O'Brien, who's answering the questions? Yeah. Oh. Come on up, guys.
Come on up.
Good evening, Board. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Paul DeLeo from DeLeo Gas. I'm representing the propane company that's going to be installing propane tanks on site. And we have Fontaine Brothers here to answer any questions that the Board also may have. So we're proposing the 6 1,000-gallon above-ground propane tanks for temporary heating throughout the winter season. The amount of storage that's needed for this is pretty common. 6 1,000-gallon tanks. 3 1,000-gallon tanks per heater. There's going to be 2 heaters on site on opposite sides of the building. The plan has been reviewed with the fire department. There's adequate crash protection, and everything is up to NFPA code. The size is important for the amount of storage. Right now, with the size requirements, we're going to need a delivery about every 2 or 3 days. So that's the reason for the quantity of propane tanks that we need up there. But I'm here to answer any questions that the Board may have.
That was going to be my first question, is how long will 6,000 gallons last in
Yeah.
the really cold part of the winter?
Yeah, so we think worst case scenario that these heaters will be running 24/7 in the the cold, the dog days of winter. Each heater will burn roughly 600 or 700 gallons per day. So we'll need to be doing a delivery about every 2 or 3 days if the heaters are consistently running. Obviously, warmer days, then we can stretch that out a little bit.
Okay, thanks.
How long does it take to refill a propane tank?
I would say one individual tank, if it's down to 20 or 30%, would probably take about 10 or 15 minutes per tank.
You get 3 in each location?
3 at each location. So I would say about an hour turnaround, and then we're out of there.
And the trucks are, I'm sorry, Jim, real quick.
No, go ahead.
And the trucks are just your standard size, like?
Yeah, like
oil truck that you see?
exactly,
Not an
yeah.
oil truck, but a propane truck?
Very,
similar
yes,
size?
very similar, yep.
Oh, okay.
Not a tractor-trailer truck or anything like that. It's a straight truck.
Okay, gotcha.
Jim?
And what time of day do you think you'd be
So-
doing the fills?
So that was important when we were sizing the tanks, because we wanted to make sure that we're doing it during regular business hours. So typically we'll make deliveries between 8 and 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday.
And how much noise is involved when you're filling the tanks?
The truck is pretty much at an idle. We do need to engage a PTO, which has a little bit more noise than just a truck idling. But overall, the noise is pretty limited, especially, I would say, on a construction site.
And what parts of these tanks, what parts of the school are they nearest to? I mean, I see them on the picture, but I'm trying to get a sense for what's in the building there. So where I'm going with the question is, when you fire up the gassing it up and you engage the PTO and things like that,
Yep.
who is likely to hear the noise within the building, and what level of disruption might that cause for students, teachers, and so forth?
I think the school's had us out there for a year now, working out there. This is not gonna even approach any of the loudest or most disruptive things that had to happen out there during construction. And as far as location, one of the heaters is completely opposite the existing building.
Yep.
And then the other is probably a good 50 yards off the existing building.
So my question was not so much in the construction part, but once the building's occupied.
Oh, yeah.
So you get students in there that are taking classes and so forth. Well, are they gonna be aware of the fills that are going on, given the frequency?
All this equipment is just for our construction for the next
Oh,
5 months.
I misunderstood,
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
it's all
Okay.
temporary, it'll all be pulled out and gone.
Then I'm good with that question.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm good, thank you.
Any other members have any?
I'd just reiterate, and I know that the fire chief has looked at this and everyone's looked at it from a safety perspective, but that's of the utmost concern, more so than noise or anything else. I mean, there's a little bit of a bend in the road. The other ones are next to the one access road. I don't know how many plows we're gonna have coming through there or how much other construction equipment, but safety is paramount. So any of the construction plans, moving materials, anything like that, that would require anybody to go even anywhere near those, want to make sure that's mentioned. And I know that you guys have done well with safety on the site so far, so we feel comfortable with it, but that's definitely forefront in my mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have adequate crash protection around them, Jersey barriers around all the tanks, around all the gas piping, to avoid any accidents.
Okay, thanks, guys.
So currently, I think I'm the only member of the board who has a daughter who's been through first year, she's a 7th grader, so she already went through the noise, and I can guarantee the noise will not be as much as what they went through last year in the school, because I've not heard one complaint about noise on site in classes. And so these would be behind those concrete barriers that are already in place now, correct? Like, is that driveway?
They get their own concrete barriers specific to the tanks to protect them within the site. So the site itself is protected, but also the tanks themselves also get Jersey barriers.
Okay.
Were the neighbors here? I don't know if they were.
Well, that's what, because this is a public hearing, if there was any other questions.
One last one for me.
Yes, Jim?
The nature of the construction work that will be going on around these tanks, is there anything that you'd be concerned about? I'm thinking about things like cutting torches, for example. Is, what construction is gonna be happening around these tanks?
So you speak to your offset off the building.
Yeah, so the tanks need to be at least 25 feet off the building.
Okay.
So any work that's being done on the building itself, torches, lulls, that type of equipment, we have at least a 25-foot buffer for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the exterior work is generally complete on one side where the tanks are going, and the other side is relatively minimal where it's gonna be, so.
Great, thank you, thanks.
Was there any members, anyone here this evening that also wanted to ask a question or speak to this matter?
Yeah, just a question on containment.
If you wouldn't mind, could you come up to the mic and just say your name and, yeah.
That's why we make people do it.
I know.
He goes unpunished.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Just a question on containment. Other than the Jersey barriers, any fencing or things around to enclose? I mean, I know that regular tanks, filling stations have that, just, as a deterrent, probably more than anything.
Sure. So the site itself is fenced in, of course. So the tanks are all, and all the equipment is within the fenced-in area. So the site itself needs to be fully secured to prevent anybody from getting in there off hours or anything like that.
But nothing specific, just around the tanks?
Not within the site, no.
Okay.
So what's your name, just for the record?
John, no, Kevin Liberty.
Thank you.
Yep, I think if there's no other questions, then.
One last
yeah,
question,
Jim, go.
if I could. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place here, but security of the tanks. Once they're there and they're filled, how secure are they? And is anybody able to get at those tanks? I'm thinking of vandalism or worse things. How secure are the tanks?
Sure.
Yeah, so like Joe was saying, the property is fenced in. Do you guys have security on site?
We have
cameras.
cameras.
Cameras, so
Yeah.
to see any intruders, they would see that on that end. To speak on the propane tanks themselves, it's a sealed system. So for you to actually tap into the propane, you would have to physically have tools or something to be able to cut the pipe. The propane tanks and the system itself has a bunch of safeties on it, so if something was sheared off, there's things called excess flow valves. So if there's an extreme release of propane, they close internally, so propane can't be released. But in terms of securing them, you would really have to kind of know what you're doing, be some type of a plumber or a gas fitter to be able to, open up a tank, and at that point, the worst case scenario is to release propane into the air, which is non-hazardous, and it wouldn't contaminate the air or the soil around it. And that's the reason why we have these setbacks too, is if there was a leak or anything like that, that it's far enough away from the building, it's far enough away from anything that may ignite it. There's no locks on them themselves. We want to make sure that we can access the tanks. If there is an emergency, someone can go and shut them off. So that's why we don't padlock anything or really secure the tanks or the system itself. But there is some safety mechanisms in there to be able to make sure that there is an extreme release of propane.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
All right. If there's no one else, then please.
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. The public hearing is now closed.
I would also make a motion to approve the request of DeLeo Gas, Inc. for a new license for the installation of temporary above-ground propane tanks, 6,000 gallons in total, for construction heat at 625 Washington Street.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda tonight, the Cultural Council has been invited to come forward and give a brief presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Clodagh Drummy. I'm the chair of the Walpole Cultural Council. Thank you for inviting us to join you today. I'm here with some of my colleagues to tell you a little bit about what the Cultural Council does, why it's important, and what our current funding landscape looks like. As you all probably know, the Walpole Cultural Council is a town committee comprised of 8 Walpole residents. We are one of 328 local cultural councils that receives funding from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which is a statewide agency committed to promoting arts and culture across the Commonwealth. Through its local cultural council program, the Massachusetts Cultural Council provides funding to local cultural councils to distribute grants to local artists and organizations offering arts and cultural programs. How does the Cultural Council do this? Well, the first thing that we do each year is that we solicit input from community members to get more information about what residents feel is important in terms of arts and cultural programming. Each year in this summer, we conduct a survey where we ask questions about what types of events local residents are attending and what they would like to see prioritized in terms of funding. For the past 3 years, our surveys have indicated that town residents want to see more programs related to science and nature, music, and cultural diversity. After we collect input from the community in the summer, we typically announce that we are accepting grant proposals in the fall. The deadline for grant applications is usually in mid-October. And in November and December, the Cultural Council meets to review grant proposals and make funding decisions. Typically, we announce our grantees in December and January, and arts and cultural programming continues throughout the year. I'd like to introduce my colleague Rob, who's going to tell you a little bit more about why these programs are important and kind of what they mean to the community.
Hello, I'm Rob Bird. I'm a member of the Walpole Cultural Council, and thought it would just help to discuss direct benefits to Walpole citizens of the programs that we fund. Promoting youth development and education. Research clearly shows involvement in arts can improve academic and social outcomes for youth across socioeconomic status and across all ages. Arts funding promotes health and wellness. Arts can improve individual and community health, reducing stress and anxiety and helping cope with trauma and symptoms of disease. Arts funding fosters a welcoming, inclusive community that celebrates diversity. When arts are present, there's documented increase in neighborhood livability, community identity, and social inclusion. Arts funding adds a competitive edge to business. Businesses also benefit from strong art sectors. Places that invest and promote arts have a distinct advantage in our future economy. And arts helps different sectors partner. Arts aren't working in isolation. In Walpole, arts organizations are working together with schools, the senior center, the library, local places of worship, and more. And I would just add, even in between town departments. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Carrie Pittman.
So I just wanted to go over some of the funding highlights of fiscal year '23. And if you have it on your sheet here, this is just a little summary of the types of programs that we've been able to fund. And a little summary is that we've been able to fund 24 programs that benefit Walpole residents of all ages. 12 music and dance programs, 5 projects celebrating cultural diversity, which Clodagh had said in our in the survey that we sent out, these were 2 of the priorities of Walpole town residents who want to see us doing those types of programs. We were able to fund 4 public school programs, 2 theater programs, and 2 festivals. And you have a sheet with a listing of all the programs that we were able to fund, and I won't read them all to you, but just to point out a couple things, we really got the age range in here too. We have been able to fund programs at the Boyden School and Oak Post Road, which are elementary schools, all the way up to the senior center, and many programs in between. We also have tried to make this accessible to our Walpole residents in that we've had some of these programs were at the Walpole Library, the Walpole Footlighters, the picture on the previous pages of the Walpole Children's Theater, which perform at the Footlighters stage. We've been able to do programs at Bird Park, the Walpole Public Schools that we mentioned, and 2 festivals, Juneteenth and Uncommon Art on the Common. So we're really proud of all these programs that we were able to fund, and we just hope maybe in the future that if with more funds from our town that we could do even more, we could even have a wider list next year.
One thing that I forgot to mention, in addition to the Cultural Council grant program, one thing that the Cultural Council does do is organize events, most notably our Walpole Writes townwide writing competition, which we began in 2020, has been very popular throughout the town. It's generated a lot of interest and really grown over the past 3 years. I didn't want to leave that out.
And I'm Sarah McCracken. I'm the treasurer of the Cultural Council, and I'm going to take you through the funding landscape. I don't want to read all of the numbers on the slide that you've got, but more to tell the story around them. You've got the FY22 and FY23 cycles in front of you. The way things work for us, as Clodagh mentioned, we get our funds from the Massachusetts State Cultural Council. We get an allocation every year, and we distribute that throughout the community. That number has slightly increased. You'll see on the slide it went up by about $1,800, but the amount of funds that we had requested within the community increased significantly more. And so the allocation that we've been receiving from the state, which we're very grateful for, it just isn't keeping up with the demand that we have. And so we're looking to see if there are ways that we can go about changing that. The allocation for FY23 was $12,100, and if you look at the next slide, this gives just a highlight of what FY24, which is just starting now, is going to look like. That allocation is the same, so that's flat. We are projecting that we're able to fund about 40% of the requested projects that we have with that amount. If the town of Walpole were to consider matching the state allocation, that would double, so we'd be able to fund about 8% of projects requested. We do think that we're able to do quite a bit with the amount that we've received from the state over the years, but with the number of programs that we've seen coming in and the quality of those, we'd like to contribute at a higher level. So we're looking to see if we can answer any questions that you have and continue that conversation. That's it for me. Clodagh, do you want to handle Q&A?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Sarah.
Happy to accept any questions you might have.
I appreciate you coming this evening, and I'm very familiar with the Cultural Council. All the communities surrounding us have them as a state grant. It's interesting to see the amounts, and only 40% of the applicants really are able to receive funding. Do you find that you have some programs that you're consistently able to fund, or where's the difficulty lie? Is it hard to get new programming in, and you kind of keep the funding for programs that are longstanding, that people are familiar with and like to see? What is the approach of the committee kind of?
I think we're faced with a lot of tough decisions when we review grant proposals. All of the applications we receive are compelling and worthy of funding, and we're only able to fund a very small percentage. We try to think really carefully about what the town wants to see us fund, looking at those survey results. But even so, we're often only able to fund partial amounts of the funds that are requested. So, for example, just remembering when we were reviewing grants last year, most of the amounts that we granted were far less than what organizations and artists were requesting. I think we felt that in particular with some of the proposals we reviewed that impacted young people and the schools, which is difficult to see.
Do other board members have any questions? Ben?
Yeah, well, can I just clarify, is 12,100 your entire budget, or is
Yes.
that just what you get from the state?
That's our entire budget.
Okay. And then a question actually for Jim Johnson. ARPA is coming to my mind, and would this request or an allocation from ARPA qualify, whether it's revenue replacement, or I know we have some money still remaining, and I'm just curious if that's.
I'm not completely sure.
That's a question I have, if we could find out. It would be one-time money, and I think you're probably asking for, I mean, one-time money is good too, but, you know, I'm sure you'd want some sort of a permanent match, a revenue source. So, but the American Rescue Plan, there is money left, when I say left over, that is still there, that has yet to be allocated. So that's just an idea to throw out there, yeah.
And Jim?
Do you solicit donations?
We do accept donations. When we've conducted our Walpole Writes writing contest, we've printed books and accepted donations in exchange for a copy of the book.
I'm wondering, yeah, so that's good, but I'm wondering if you actually proactively solicited donations, if that could help close some of the gap down.
It might help a little bit. I should also mention, we did receive a grant last year from Dedham Savings for Walpole Writes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, is that you mentioned that, I forget the words you actually used on it, but you had Business Edge, I think it was. It's in there, I know. And so what I'm thinking about is if there is something that is beneficial to local businesses, it seems to me that that might be a good place to go and solicit some donations from to help close down the gap. And of course, at each of your events, you know, you go down to a Cape Cod League baseball game and they pass the hat. They don't charge for tickets. You show up, you bring your lawn chair, they pass the hat, and they make the money that covers their costs. So I'd encourage you to be a little bit, proactive in terms of asking for donations, not just accepting them as they come in. Go ahead.
That's an excellent idea, and we will do that. I should also mention, we're all volunteers that serve on the committee, so our time is limited. We have families and full-time jobs
Fair.
as well.
Yeah, very fair. And by the way, thank you for the good work you're doing. I do recognize your volunteers, as are we, by the way. And I know that it can be very time-consuming, and the work you're doing is great. Do you have a specific ask for the Board of Selectmen, for the Select Board, in terms of what you'd be looking for in terms of a match?
I think we would be looking for $12,000 in matching funding for this year, if you would consider it.
I don't know if we even do things like this. So, Jim, I guess I'd turn to you and say, because I don't want to get us into a situation where we're setting precedents about, providing, towns funds to pay for things like this. But if we've done it in the past, or if it's a vehicle that we have to do it, I'd be interested in hearing about that.
Not that I know of. I haven't received such a request from this group, so.
Okay.
I know that every city and town is different, but I would also just like to share that many other local towns are contributing matching funds to their local cultural councils.
Rob had done some research.
40% of towns
Thank
in
you, Rob.
Massachusetts match the funding from the Massachusetts Cultural Council.
And I
Which
think-
is a significant number of
It is-
towns.
it is significant.
And I believe
Yeah.
Beverly,
And I think what's interesting of the Cultural Council, it is an appointed council from the Select Board. You are in charge of the state grant that you receive and to provide that, servicing. And when you look at the list, you also are providing servicing to the many departments within Walpole because you're supporting the senior center, you're supporting our library, you're supporting our elementary schools, you're supporting our downtown and the events and, that kind of revitalization that we want downtown and encouraging people to come downtown with Juneteenth, with Uncommon Art in the Commons. So I certainly appreciate the work you are doing. I'm disappointed to see that we're only able to fund 40%. And I think soliciting, I think there are businesses in town that absolutely it can be difficult as they are, asked over and over again, but that may be a way. And also within the grant, if you were allowed to take donations, and I'm not sure if really individuals of the community are aware that the Cultural Council can accept donations. And I think it could be funding from the state, if we can continue this discussion, if the committee would take into consideration of really seeking out, actively seeking out donations from some businesses or certainly other committees that are in town that are very successful in doing that, and really letting the community know that we're only able to, provide 40% of the grants and continue to apply, but and unfortunately, the line item stayed stale.
So I have an idea. As you were talking, I got this. We've never received such a request from the Cultural Council, but we've also never received a capital request. And if I knew what I knew 2 months ago that they'd be looking for funding, I think it would be a lot easier on my end to fund it through capital, through free cash, and go kind of year to year to see if we could build it up a little bit. So that would be my suggestion, because we have done matching grants for, I think, a couple of different, like, conservation projects or trail projects. So that may be something I'd rather see them pursue and be more likely to fund, because we pretty much were able to fund many of the capital projects that were requested this past year, but I think that would probably be a better route for me, funding-wise, to pursue. And if the board's shaking their head, I think that'd be something the board would be supportive of, and to see if we can get funding for.
All right, Jim. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to actually give it to Ben since he hasn't made a comment just yet, and then turn to you, Jim.
First, I guess I'd just say that, thanks for coming in. It's really great to hear. I think it helps to get it, whether people watch this video on YouTube or not, it starts the conversation and other people become aware of it. I think that's very helpful. Certainly supportive of working with Jim further and keeping this conversation going about matching funds and what we can do there. My question has to do with, talking about the number of applications. You say it's increased significantly. I was just curious, what is the nature of those? Is it similar to the projects that you funded, the list that we have here? Are there new items coming in? Is there something driving this, increase? Is it interest? Well, just a little idea of what
I
that
think
is.
after COVID, people are much more, they much more want to see programs. They want to gather together as a community.
Yep.
So I think that is part of it.
Yep.
I think also our schools, it breaks my heart every time we have to say we can only do these programs when, the schools need these arts, culture, science, history, all these programs that can supplement the education. So, we have to, like Claudia said, we can't, if somebody asks for a full amount, we very rarely can give that full amount. And sometimes the programs can't happen then. But I think it might also be that we're maybe getting the word out a little more, so people are applying more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a variety of reasons, but there does certainly seem to be more of an interest in having arts and cultural activities in the town.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen that coming in from the schools. The FY23 cycle had 59% of our allocation was requested by the schools in Walpole.
Okay.
We weren't able to meet all of that. We did our best, but it was a pretty big increase over what they asked for in FY22.
Yeah, I'll also say, I'm going to step outside of my role as the chair of the Cultural Council right now and speak as a parent of children that are more driven to the arts and music side of things. And I feel like those opportunities aren't quite as prevalent in Walpole as they are in other towns. And people have to seek them out. But it does seem like there is an appetite for that. So, I hope that, I hope that you're willing to kind of continue this conversation and explore, ways that we might work together to bring more arts and cultural activities into our town.
I'm going to give Jim first, and then I'll go to you, Glenn.
So
Yeah.
just a couple of other thoughts that I've had as we're going through this. So first of all, I like the idea of submitting the capital request. That's a good way to go about getting some funding from the town. So I'd encourage you to do that, and we can work with you on that. The second thing is Walpole Media. Have you been working with Walpole Media at all on any of the presentations that you do, the shows you do, any of that? Did they pick up on any of that?
We've done some collaboration with Walpole Media around Walpole Rights. We've had winners of the contest share their work on video with support from Walpole Media.
They're-
That's been the extent of it.
Announcing
Oh, right.
the grant applications. It was supposed to run before and after on the YouTube channel
Yeah.
between the meetings.
Yeah.
Just saying, hey, November 17th is coming up. If you have a project, go to the website.
So we've recorded some public service announcements with the support of Walpole
I'm actually
Media
thinking
as well.
about picking up on the programming itself. If you're doing, performances, for example, that those might be interesting things for Walpole Media to pick up on. And I know Tamara is always looking for more content for her to be picking up on, and they're great to work with. So I'd encourage you to get on that path. And I don't know if this is allowed, but if it is allowed, that's also a vehicle to get some solicitation for donations. As you put one out, if, again, assuming they'll let you do it, you just put something up, a splash page up that says, hey, we're looking for donations to continue to fund this good work. Then the final thought I have is, we've got the Walpole 300th coming up, and we have set aside some funding for that. I think it might be worth reaching out to the 300th committee, which is chaired by Bill Buckley and Katie Turco-Beatty, who I don't know if you know them, but if not, we can help you with that. And see if there's any kind of programming that might be linkable to the whole 300th celebration, because I think that might be a really interesting avenue to pursue, and there is funding available there, or at least it was last time I knew, and perhaps there's an opportunity there. Okay.
Glenn, did you?
Oh, yeah, lots of good ideas from Jim. I don't mean to end on like sort of a detail-oriented question, but just, I added these up. You got 24 programs that you guys funded. I had a question that Ben sort of just, elicited, and I wanted to just clarify. Are you partially funding these programs? Because that averages out to about $500 a program. I'm sure there's more in some cases,
Yeah,
less
so-
in others, but these aren't fully funded programs by you.
So, no,
imagine, yeah.
for the most part, no. Each grant application includes an amount that the applicant has requested in funds, and generally, we fund less than is requested. In some cases, the ask is very small, and we are able to fully fund, but by and large, we are only funding requests partially.
And so to Ben's question, you would potentially use additional resources to increase your level. You might still fund 24 programs, but it might be $800 per program or more.
Right. I think, we'd have to decide that as a council on a case-by-case
yeah.
basis. But there would certainly be the capacity to fund projects more fully and then possibly fund additional new projects as well.
And I didn't mean my question to detract from Jim's ideas. Those are some good ideas, Jim. So.
Yeah, no, these are great ideas, and we appreciate, your willingness to have us come in and talk about what we do, and the good suggestions that you all have given us.
So the one, I think the discussion's been very good, and I like all the ideas. If you decided to go and do a little soliciting of donations, my suggestion is start with the banks. I think we have 7 or 8 banks in Walpole, and they're very generous to local activities. So, they all have their own grant cycle, just like you're used to. But I would suggest if you thought that was an idea that you wanted to pursue, rather than trying to pursue everything at once, take a look at the banks, see what their cycles are, and, get involved. And it might be the kind of thing where one year you could get one bank, and the next year it might be a different bank. They have the same issue. They don't have enough funds. But I'd consider starting there. I did notice one of the, I'm a mentor for the Walpole Robotics Foundation. They work with the high school kids and the middle school kids and the elementary school kids. But we do a lot of other fundraising, and some of it is through the banks and local companies. So we do know that they will make donations. So, and they're always very appreciative. You know, sometimes they say, sorry, we don't have any money this year, but, you know, we'll really consider you at the top of the list next year. So just something to think about. So thank you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming this evening.
Thanks.
We'll be in further discussions on this.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is past 7:50. I am going to open forum if there's anyone here to speak on that. Come on up.
How you doing?
Hey.
Jack Fisher, Board of Assessors. I just wanted to quickly stop by, talk a little bit about the classification hearing, which is going to be 3 weeks from tonight. Thank you for Alfie, who's been, I've been driving her crazy about when I was going to be able to get in here, because normally we try to get in 2 weeks before. You don't have a meeting in 2 weeks, so right now I'm on the schedule for a week before, which really doesn't give you enough time. So I just wanted to let you know, the classification hearing is 3 weeks from today at 7 o'clock rather, okay? And the purpose of that is to, for you to do, we'll make a recommendation, and then you will make a decision as to what you want to do with the shift in the tax rate from residential to commercial, okay? We will have a complete package for you sometime next week. We're a couple days behind, but you should have it sometime next week. Once you get that, please take the time to look at it. If you have any questions at all, as always, don't hesitate to reach out to either any members of the board or just stop down and talk to Dennis. He'll be happy to explain and go through anything that you may want like that. And just, you know, we will, it's the complete package, 30, 35 pages that we usually do in the past. So I think all the information will be there, but if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I just ask that you be prepared to make a decision at that meeting on the 14th, because that drives, your decision will drive the full certification process for the state so that we can get tax bills out on time. So, and the only other thing that I have to add about it is that there is always that possibility that the state may not have certified our values by the 14th. And we may not know that until the 13th, but we will keep you apprised of that. And if we think there's going to be any sort of a delay, then what will happen is you'll open the hearing and then just continue until the next available time. We don't think that will happen, but it's the state, so we do what we can. So I just wanted to mention that right now. You have 5 minutes free in 2 weeks. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them now, or...
I have just a process question. So you mentioned you normally have 2 weeks. The way the calendar's following, you're only going to have 1 week. Did I hear that right?
Normally, what I try to do is try to come in at least 2 weeks in advance of the
gotcha.
hearing.
Okay.
But you don't have a meeting in 2 weeks, so I had to get, the only appointment I could get was 1 week in advance. So I said, let me just drop down tonight, so that you have plenty of time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate the heads up.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
See you in a bit.
Okay, as I said, the package will be out next week. Don't hesitate to ask, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Next item on our agenda tonight is new business for the discussion.
Anything?
Oh, come on up, sorry.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Cleary. I live in South Walpole, and I am here to present Quiet Zone for South Walpole. We have been talking with locals. Mark Majors is our RTM. I have handouts that I can distribute. South Walpole, majority of people, at least majority that I've talked to, would like to have, I'm sorry, this is my copy.
That's okay.
So I only brought two, sorry. With the permanency of the Craft MBTA rail line, the train horns is an absolute obnoxious thing to live near. And we would like to have a quiet zone. Within this program, this brochure is safety data. Everyone is concerned about safety with the quiet zone. And what I did is, this is in July, I downloaded from the FRA website their incident report file and then quantified everything. So a whistle ban is a quiet zone. So I put together graphs of quiet zone versus non-quiet zone incidents from 2005 is when a quiet zone became regulatory through the Federal Railroad. up until July of 2023. And all the data shows that a quiet zone is considerably safer than non-quiet zones. Why? Who knows? But it turns out that a quiet zone is safer. Everyone is concerned about safety, so I have mixed the information up different ways to present it different ways. The Summer Street crossing right now has 2 gate arms. We cannot get a quiet zone with 2 gate arms. It has to have 4. And 4 gate arms really is the safest way to go. The Omni Fairfield development at 55 Summer Street, Omni offered $125,000 for the study of a quiet zone. The past ZBA meeting, the ZBA department took that 125 towards roads. I would like to have the 125, I'm requesting the 125,000 be taken back to do the study of how much it will actually cost to implement a quiet zone at the Summer Street crossing. John Lee, I believe his name is, the chairman of the ZBA, said that he looked into it, as well as Patrick, Economic Dufresne, I'm probably not going to pronounce his name correctly, and they said it can range anywhere from $300,000 to over $1 million. That's a huge ballpark to not take action on. If you want to know exactly how much it's going to cost, take the $125K that Omni Fairfield is offering, do an actual study to find out how much it costs. You can use the same consultant that upgraded the crossing, I think they're VRB or something along that line, in Boston, and find out really how much this would cost. One of the things I found out is that property values near a train track are close to 20% lower than non-railroad track. And if you listen to the police recording today, I made a call to the police department, and ironically, a train was going by. So literally, you can't hear anything when you're standing in your backyard. You can't have your windows open, nothing. It is a nuisance. So with South Walpole, we've got the stadium. Summer Street is probably busier than Route 1 because it's now a cut-through. 18-wheelers are going down Summer Street, which should be banned. Our neighborhood is getting blighted. We're looking to the board, we're looking to the ZBA. Please help our neighborhood return back to some type of quietness that was before the development of Summer Street. Sorry. I'm trying to stay level, not get impassioned about this, because I live near the crossing, and it is just annoying as heck. Absolutely. So, do you have any questions? I put together information. There is a railroad crossing. I think it's in Brewster. I'm not certain what page it's on. But it's a 2-minute walk, 3-minute walk from a quiet zone. And that quiet zone has been in place since 2005, and there have been 0 reported incidents. It's almost a layout from the crossing to Boyden School. And I was really glad to hear Allison comment about being quiet, the noise over the LPG or natural gas tanks. So why not apply that same thought to a quiet zone? You have Boyden School, residents in the area that really would like to have quiet, peacefulness. It's going to get crazy when the 55 Summer Street goes up. Traffic's going to be even crazier. And, no train horns.
Kathleen, I was going to say, we appreciate you being here this evening. Mark, you can certainly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because this is open forum and it's not an item on our agenda, we're not allowed by state ethics law to have a discussion about this. So
Right.
we appreciate your bringing this item up to our attention and dropping off a package. But we can't really jump in to have a discussion about this right now, so.
Well, I've talked to a few RTMs, and they said, well, people aren't certain about the information. They don't know. So I'm here to try to help educate you. I've done, no offense, I don't mean to say, but I have done a lot of work. I've talked to the Federal Railroad Administrator that manages the crossing, and we obviously can't get quiet zone designation right now because it's not a safe crossing, considered a safe crossing. But when Summer Street goes in, people are going to be zigzagging through that crossing. Even if, I don't want to say this, even if you don't consider a quiet zone, the railroad crossing still needs to be upgraded. It needs to be improved safety. And there has only been 1 accident at that crossing since 2005.
Is there a history, have we considered this before? I've only been on the board for 2 or 3 years. Has this come up before the board in the past? Does anyone know?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The board respectfully declined to delegate it, designate it as.
Yeah, probably a good 10 years ago.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
Kathleen, thank you for coming here this evening. I will give this to Aoife to copy so that all members of the board have a copy of the report. You
Is there any way to follow up discussions?
We can reach out at a later point, yes.
Okay, so it's open. All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Thank you,
Thank
Kathleen. Next item on our agenda is new business, so we have a discussion and possible vote on the FY '25 salary scale. Jim, would you like to review this?
Just what you have in front of you is the proposed FY '25 salary schedule. What we're looking to do is generate a cost of living increase of 2.25% for non-union personnel. We're looking to move around a few positions here too in the salary schedule, specifically the assistant fire chief to a grade B2 to go along with the vote that was taken tonight that wasn't on the salary schedule at this point, and move the deputy fire chief to a P3, and also add a constituent services director. If I'm able to get the funding in there, I'd like to have that in place. I believe I've talked to some of the board members about what I'd hope for that person to be able to do, more or less help us with our social media presence, facilitating services for individuals looking for fuel, utility, housing assistance, helping the Board of Health with the opioid funds and addressing the issues that they have coming up. Mostly, it's going to be kind of a jack of all trades for that position between my office, so the town administration, Board of Health, help out, carry a little bit Council on Aging, but that's all going to be subject to funding. I basically am just looking to get that on the schedule at this point. So total cost to implement the 2.25% is about $111,000. I'd ask for the board to take action on it tonight so we can ensure that the department heads can implement that into their budget requests, and you don't have to go back into the budget and start making adjustments.
Open it up to the board for any questions, comments?
I think the schedule looks good, so I've looked through that, over the last few days, so.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. Glenn?
I would make a motion to approve the FY '25 salary schedule as presented tonight.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. Next item is our consent agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent items as listed on the October 24th updated agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have a vote, 500. Next item is our town administrator's update.
Sure, just a few items here. Fall town meeting, I just want to, just a recap, I thought everything went very smoothly that night. I appreciate the debate, discussion that occurred over the in-law or accessory dwelling unit bylaw that was proposed. Jody's gone ahead and already set up all the account numbers. Capital projects are already underway at the department head level. Great work all around. And the Springtown meeting, we're already underway. The warrant's set to open on November 7th and close on January 23rd. Budget directives have gone out, and budget department heads are working through their budgets. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, which is a great thing. Town council is offered to do some training in light of some of the stuff that's happened across the state in other towns north of Boston with some of the select board. I not only want to include the select board, but probably vice chairs and chairs from other boards as to how to handle like an open forum if we have people who are combative who may come in, how to de-escalate that a little bit. We're also going to have her do some training as far as First Amendment audits. That's going on again throughout the state, people coming in demanding to be seen and spoken to with department heads and employees. So I think it would be good to get a refresher in that for the employees. And I really am going to strongly encourage boards and at least chairs and vice chairs to attend this training with town council, because it's not, our open forum is run very well. Everybody's respectful, but that could change in, a snap. So, and last item, Tri-County, obviously, if the vote passes tonight, we're going to be discussing that a lot, I expect, over the next upcoming months as to how to fund it long-term. What are going to be some items we're going to need to sacrifice here. I'm already getting vote totals in some towns, and so far, Norfolk it's passed, Medfield it's passed, Plainville it's passed, so overwhelmingly. So, I have a feeling it's going to pass throughout, and we're going to be we're gonna have to make some decisions at this level. And I think having the FinCom joint meetings on November 16th and 28th are gonna be perfect timing. Good. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. This evening, we're actually going to go into executive session. So as the chair, I hereby declare it is the board's intention to go into executive session for purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respects to collective bargaining or litigation. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. A discussion of the foregoing as open session could compromise the purpose of the executive session, with the select board not returning to open session at the conclusion of the executive session. I will make a motion that the.
I'll second that.
Okay, and this must be a roll call vote. Jim?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Ben?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes?
And I am a yes as well. Motion has passed, 500 for the board to go into.